All right, motherfuckers, say it with me. It's Kraven time.
No.
That's right. That's right. Kraven the Hunter is now in cinemas. The long-delayed Kraven the Hunter, part of Sony's Spider-Man villain universe. I don't know what they're calling it. This one stars Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kraven the Hunter. If you don't know who he is one of Spidey's big villains. Appeared very, very early on in Amazing Spider-Man. And he is, as his name suggests, a hunter. The ultimate hunter. He has vanquished every other prey on the planet. And so his last peak prime prey is the Spider-Man. Spider-Man, of course, is not in this movie because there is a deal with Marvel and he isn't in any of these movies featuring his own villains. But Kraven the Hunter is not as bad as Morbius or Madam Web. I know the bar is very low, but I didn't laugh my ass off at this movie. And I didn't leave the cinema feeling particularly angry either. And it's not because I'm beaten down by all of this. I think this movie had some things going for it. And in many ways, this movie felt a little disappointing because as I was watching it, I kept thinking, there is a good movie here. Or there was a good movie here that was kind of ripped apart by a studio. This thing was directed by J.C. Chandor, and J.C. Chandor is a pretty good director. I mean, he did Margin Call, A Most Violent Year with Oscar Isaac. He did Triple Frontier, the Netflix movie, which wasn't a bad movie at all. And so he's done some really good films. And I think I could see a good film here. A lot of that has to do with Aaron Taylor Johnson, who has a tremendous amount of charisma. And his body is just fucking stupid. It doesn't feel real. I don't know if that was CGI or what, but Jesus Christ. He takes off his shirt in the first 10 minutes and you're like, motherfucker. Anyway, but that's besides the point. Point is, yet again, Kraven feels like it could have been a good movie. I never had that feeling with Morbius or Madam Web. I know both of those went through serious edits and potential reshoots because there were so many different trailers for Morbius, remember, showing different things. But at no point when I was watching those movies did I go, this could have been something good. No, those felt like trash from the get-go. This one felt like it could have been something.
Yeah, Morbius and Madam Web felt like car crashes from day one. That is taking into account the fact that they ADR the hell out of Madam Web's sort of villain in that one. Speaking of ADR, there was some really weird Ariana DeBose ADR here. I just thought, I don't understand. She's also practically written out of this movie.
Yeah, it's weird. She's in it, but she isn't. She's in it as Calypso, but then her character feels like she's just there to make a few phone calls.
That character, had it not been Calypso, and it really didn't need to be Calypso, could have been played by some unnamed person from casting.
In the comics, Calypso is Kraven's love interest, but she's also like this voodoo high priestess. She is like a proper badass character. She's got stuff. Like, she does stuff. In this one, she makes a lot of phone calls.
But it's weird how they write out Calypso's magic, in air quotes, abilities while giving Kraven magic abilities. Which is strange because Kraven doesn't have magic abilities.
I think he gets some later, but the original conception of the character doesn't.
Yes, he is just a hunter.
He's not like Brave Star.
Also, there were shots from the trailer that were not in this movie.
Quite a few.
There was a fight in a snowstorm that doesn't end up in this film, which I thought was strange.
And you can see those cuts. As in,
you can see those cuts. You
can see how this movie was merged together to try and be coherent.
Yes.
When Calypso and Kraven meet in London, it feels so incredibly rushed. And I have a feeling there was some stuff before then that led you to that point.
Literally, even Calypso goes, how did you find me from one card? And Kraven just waves it off.
I'm the world's greatest hunter, motherfucker. I can find anybody.
Don't tell. It was so weird. My biggest disappointment was that this isn't a car crash. I hate car crash movies.
But they're also a lot of fun.
I
think this movie almost takes itself a little too seriously.
Yes, seriously, but it also spends time in weird places. About an hour into this movie, and we'd only seen Aaron Taylor Johnson maybe in the opening sequence. We spent so much time with young Kraven, which is just like, why are we here? Why do I need all this? It felt like an old 90s TV movie where you have to see where the character started from, right? Oh, he's in school and his mother's dead and his father's angry at him and he's angry at his father and he gets mauled by a lion, but he doesn't. That's like too long, too much, too many things. I don't need this. Like, do it in like dream flashback sequences. That's enough. I don't need to know all these things.
I also feel like there is so much here that was possibly forced by the studio to dumb it down for an audience. Like, we know Fred Haschinger's character plays the chameleon, as in that's in the IMDb credits.
But also, like, in the first hour of this movie, everybody calls him a chameleon like 3 times.
And that's the problem. It's like actually showing him imitate his father's voice perfectly and having Sergei go, it's amazing how you can do that. That's great. I mean, all of these hints were enough so that the reveal at the end means something to the fanboys. Even if you went into this not looking at the IMDb credits and not knowing who Fred Haschinger plays, it would be something, as opposed to Russell Crowe going, he can do all of these great voices. He's like a chameleon. I'm like, come on. There is a lot of that kind of expository dialogue that feels like it needs to slap you in the face with things.
It's even weird expository dialogue because it's not like he joins the fight in this.
It's all set up, right? Because it feels like they are trying to plan Kraven 2 and Kraven 3, which will now never happen. But so much of what happens in this movie feels like setup. There is one core conflict between Kraven, his father, and Rhino. And then there's the Calypso storyline, which feels like a setup because at the end of the movie, she's all like, everybody's got secrets, buddy.
Yeah.
You don't know everything about me. And I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake. And then Chameleon is a setup. That's what makes the movie unnecessarily complicated. It's also really funny that Sony has to mine Spider-Man comics for the most obscure characters. Like, Rhino's a major character, but Foreigner, who is one of the villains, he's a mercenary in this. And he's a mercenary in the Spider-Man comics, and I think he appeared in the 90s. But he is a really obscure nothing character. But it's not like they can use anyone else because they only have access to the Spider-Man line of comic books. And so someone is there going, oh, look, Amazing Spider-Man number 116. This Foreigner guy looks a bit like the Punisher. Maybe we can use him.
That guy didn't need to be Foreigner. I don't know who the fuck Foreigner is. Oh, I'm the Foreigner. 1, 2. I'm just like, wait, what is going on?
Why are you counting?
Why are you counting?
Why are none of your powers explained? Is it magic? Are you a mutant? What is happening?
Are you an alien? Are you just really... None of that makes sense for this movie. He could just be a badass guy and leave it at that.
But there is all of this stuff that they try to bring in from canon. Like, there is a name drop of Dr. Miles Warren, who's the Jackal. And he is involved in the whole fucking Gwen Stacy clone saga shit. He's a key character in the Spider-Man universe. But there is a casual drop of his name. And it's not like it means anything in this story, really. But they feel the need to pull in these references. And I guess if you're a fan of the comics, you might point at the screen the way Leo does. But for the most part, it is a nothing comment. It is a throwaway line. And I think that is where all of these Sony movies kind of fall short because they're really trying to do fan service and craft their own path and yet they do very little to actually stay true to the source material, which is what Feige and the MCU do very well. They change it up, but it captures a tone and the spirit of the source material. And I think that's why it works so well. Kraven is different from Morbius and Madam Web because I think they do more of that. It's as close to canon as you could possibly want, in the sense that Kraven's character isn't changed in ways to try and make him more heroic, like they try to do with Madam Web and that they try to do with Morbius. And so he really feels a little more anti-hero than the rest. That said, I don't think this is going anywhere. I think Sony's hit a wall with this. They might finally just give it up. I know Tom Holland has said there's a new Spider-Man movie coming, but that's going to be in collaboration with Marvel anyway. I think that's the deal they have. And so maybe just stick with that and Spider-Verse and see what you can do with those franchises. Because all of this feels like a waste of time. And even with the last Venom movie being done, I don't know if there are going to be any more of those. I don't think that made as much bank as the previous Venom movies. So this one just feels like a losing battle.
Okay, hear me out.
Okay.
I don't know why Sony. I don't know why Sony keeps wanting to make hero movies. Make a movie where Kraven is a villain. Because you've got Marvel doing the superhero stuff. DC can barely tie their shoes with regards to doing superhero stuff. You have villains, do villain stories.
I agree.
My point is, look at it as like a 5-year plan, right? You do all these great fucking villain stories, and then 5 years later, you go to Marvel and go, hey guys, Kraven's really kicking ass right now. He's a bad guy. Rhino's really kicking ass right now. He's a bad guy. Do you think you want Spider-Man to fight Kraven and Rhino?
No, I totally agree. I think telling a good villain story is like the silver bullet, because the single complaint that almost all Marvel movies have is that the villains aren't great.
Remember when Marvel brought in Batroc the Leaper? He didn't leap. He was in maybe 3 scenes and he got punched right out immediately. That's the problem with MCU villains. Batroc the Leaper is, okay, he's not the Riddler, but he's a decent villain. UFC legend Georges St. Pierre gets punched out immediately and it just goes like, whoop, nope, there he goes. So why not just make a movie about a villain? Just make a movie about a villain winning. You don't even have to do the, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? No, he's a bad guy. Kraven the Hunter is a fucking hunter. He's just like taking ice cream cones from kids. It's okay. Just give it a villain story. Launch your fucking Sinister Six. We know they're playing in the same universe. We don't even have to admit to that. Sony keeps waffling between this like, is Morbius a good guy? Is Morbius a bad guy? Madam Web is a good person. But then they have a bad... No need. I don't need any more hero stories. We know where the heroes are. Just give me a great fucking villain.
Yeah.
There it is, Sony. You can have that for free.
But I think this marks the end of the Sony Spider-Man villain universe. I think they're done. I think they've lost far too much money. I think to pursue this path without a major overhaul would be stupidity. And I don't think the CEO of Sony Pictures is stupid. I think he's a very, very, very smart guy. I think they need to kind of pivot and do something different because they still own the rights to this and they're not going to give it up. They're not just going to hand it back to Marvel.
I've read that contract and I feel like there's a renewal thing where they have to keep making...
Sure, but that's why they'll make Spider-Man movies, right? So you can make Spider-Verse movies, you can make Spider-Man movies. To be fair, they can make a Spider-Man movie without Marvel.
They can.
It's whether Tom Holland wants to do it, it's whether the original cast want to do it, but they can. They can go off on their own and do whatever the fuck they please, but going down this path just isn't working. And it's not just fans being difficult. I think they're just bad movies. I think if they were better movies, like this isn't a great movie. This isn't a horrible movie. It's like a 5 out of 10 movie. It's just there. This feels like your average Netflix film is what this feels like.
This feels like your average Netflix film that shares the same title with a character that you think you know from somewhere else.
Exactly. That's exactly what this is.
Because it's not the same character.
No.
It's not. It's not the character from the comics. It just so happens to be a guy named Kraven.
I don't think this movie deserves its current 15% score on Rotten Tomatoes or 14% score. I think it is a lot better than that.
I wonder if that score is because people are realizing that this isn't a train wreck. And they're disappointed at that. You know, like how Sony read the room so wrong when they re-released Morbius? Because they thought people loved Morbius. The critics don't know what they're talking about. See, those kids on TikTok are constantly talking about Morbius. Let's release it again, and still made no money. People still hated it, right? And I think it's that. I think it's the, hey guys, let's all dress up and go to Kraven. And then they sit there and go like, wait, this is fine. This isn't a shit show. Why did I pay money to go see this? And I think that's the problem.
Kraven the Hunter, not a shit show. So if you're going thinking this is going to be another one of those so bad it's good movies, you're going to be very disappointed. Instead, This is a mediocre superhero movie from the 1990s. That is what this is. It looks like it. It feels like it. There's nothing particularly exceptional about it, with maybe the exception of Aaron Taylor Johnson, who has plenty of charisma, and Russell Crowe, who is hamming it up like nobody's business. Like, this was Russell Crowe doing a Jim Carrey when he was asked why he decided to come back for Sonic 3. I've just bought so many things, I need the money.
Even the Russian accents feel like they were from a 90s movie.
The music that plays at the beginning of this film is so generic. I swear it is the same song we heard at the opening of The Hunt for Red October. I need to go look that up, but that is exactly how The Hunt for Red October started as well.
Can I ask the people who are potentially going to go watch this movie in the cinema, can I just ask you to do me a favor and then reach out to me and confirm this? There were points where Aaron Taylor Johnson, when he's speaking Russian, feels like it's ADR.
Oh, I'm not sure about that, because in interviews, he said that he actually learned Russian for this.
Oh, no, I'm sure he did. I am wondering if they ADR'd him because they wanted something else.
Right.
Because his lips and those lines don't match up.
He was mumbling a lot, so I thought he was just doing mumble acting.
Maybe he was doing mumble acting. But like, anybody who goes to watch this, can you just please keep an eye on that for me and then reach out and let me know? Because it really felt like his Russian dialogue that was coming out through the speakers did not match his Russian lips that was being moved. Yeah.
Kraven the Hunter is now showing in Malaysian cinemas. Check it out. Let us know what you think. You know how to reach out. Goggler MY, all of our social media feeds. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline 012-524-5208. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.